Hello, hooping with the man, Jason Andera. How are you?
Doing all right. It's almost March. We're ready for some ball.
What's the last game you saw? High school basketball game?
The last game I watched Washington and Mitchell last night. And
Boys game?
Caden Hinker had a little trouble. Zane Alm had a tremendous game, but it was that Washington defense that kept them a one-loss team and at number one this year.
Double A is almost into the playoffs.
Got a week to go.
Is right there right now.
We've got some complete regular seasons. We're got a few first-round battles done in region play for A and B stuff, and especially on the girls' side, and we're off and running.
The burning question, who's hot?
Let's find out who's hot.
For the boys.
We'll start on the boys' side. How about Orion Albertson of Oldham Ramona Rutland? We've never mentioned his name on the show before. But the kid went for 30 against Centerville, 26 against Esteline, and his teammate, Will Madsen, by the way, was 2 assists shy of a triple-double in that game. So congratulations to the junior, Orion Albertson. But let's go to some more familiar names. Sioux Valley had some players, and Oliver Vincent was one of them. 10 for 14 from the field, 4 of 6 from threes, and 27 points, 5 assists in a big game against Sioux Falls Christian. But his brother, Kelton, he was even bigger. 30 points for him. He went 4 of 6 from threes. The entire team shot about 50% from threes and beat Sioux Falls Christian, a huge win for them. And Kelton Vincent, by the way, he set the record for most consecutive free throws for a Cossack, that's a big deal. So a big week for Kelton Vincent.
How many? Do you know?
I do. I just can't remember off the top of my head.
50 or 100?
No, it wasn't that many. It wasn't that many. It was in the 20s somewhere.
20?
Yeah, it was the high 20s. That's a lot.
That is pretty good.
That's a lot.
Yep. And Sioux Valley is 19-1 right now. They're one
19.
of the contenders in Class A. Right?
Yeah, they've lost 2 games in the regular season over the last 2 seasons. This is a team that's been strong. Only loss was Dakota Valley this year. They're playing really well.
All right,
so they're
some other names.
Let's keep going.
Micah Swallow, we've talked about a little bit.
Yeah, a pair of 30-point games usually will get you a game ball. He won one and lost one, so that marked him down a little bit. But still, 30-point games for Micah Swallow. He has been absolutely on fire. Against Dakota Tech, went 4 of 5 from three-point land with 12 rebounds. Micah Swallow is the real deal. Rapid City Central is a team to watch. I got to mention Matthew Morris. He went for a 30-point game last Thursday against Mitchell, and just in the fourth quarter, absolutely lifted his team to a victory. So that was huge.
They play each other coming up on Friday. Rapid City Central's at Yankton coming up on Friday.
So that'll be good too. Another one though, Connor Libis went for 30 points last week in a win over Baltic. His fifth game this year with at least 30 points. And Connor Libis is, I don't know if you know, but he's kind of playing on one knee. He's got one knee that he has to drain all the time, and he still continues to put up 30-point games.
None of those guys get the game ball this week.
But the game ball goes to you, Joe Seiler, the sophomore sensation out of White River. And this is a school where it's hard to set three-point records because Mr. Louis Krogman went there, but he tied the record with 9 three-pointers in one game, and in his last 2 games has now scored 75 points in the last 2 games, and he has about 7 dunks in those last 2 games as well. We see a few of them here on the screen. This guy has been phenomenal, and is just a sophomore.
That is a really good point, though, that King Louis is the guy that you're chasing for all these records.
And he's a sophomore, so he's got a couple years. He's not going to get the scoring record, but he might take a few school records with him on the way.
All right, girls, who's hot for the girls? A pair at Sioux Falls, Washington that have been great all year.
Well, Sydney Shetnin, again, is about a 20-point machine. She got into a little bit of foul trouble against Mitchell, sat on the bench, didn't get her 20 points, but she's had 3 phenomenal performances. And her teammate, Jackalingam Wenentanda, she can finish around the rim with either hand. She gets there in about 2 steps from the three-point line because she can just make up some ground. She went for 2 20-point games and a 16-point game, and she only played about a half of that 16-point game win against 3 teams that are above 500. So this is against quality competition. She earns this week's Midco SN game ball for quite a performance, and the way she finishes around the rim, nobody else in the state can do it quite like she can.
Washington's won 10 games in a row. You want to talk about anybody else? You already gave the game ball out.
I know, I already gave it away, but let's talk about Harrisburg.
17-2 right now.
Exactly, and Emily Boyer, their junior forward, has been outstanding. She went for a 14-point, 15-rebound game, and then Breckley Honor, the future USF Cougar, had a big game as well last week against Aberdeen, 18 against Aberdeen. and then went for 23 again on Tuesday night against Huron. So she's been very good. And a quick shout out to Jaden Jensen, a 31-point, 10-rebound game for her. So we got to mention great performances when we see them.
All right. Double-A girls is going to be kind of a toss-up, though, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, Washington looks like the favorites. They're playing really good down the stretch. They've got 2 Power 5 players on their team. That's going to be tough to beat. But
O'Gorman, Harrisburg, Brandon Valley,
Aberdeen. Brandon Valley could make they've beaten good teams all year long. I don't want to count out Stevens either. I think Stevens is a team coaches are really scared to play coming down the stretch. They've got so many good players back from last year's team. So, yeah, loaded class.
Back to the boys. Vermillion is having a once in a quite a while season. 20-0 right now, and what's going on with the Vermillion boys?
Well, they haven't won it all since 1989. They haven't made a state tournament since 1989.
What?
And that's right. Because, before the old Sodak 16 came into play, they were always running up against Lennox or, somebody else was bouncing them out of that tough region that they played in. Haven't made it to a state tournament. This year went 20-0, and that's this week's guest, their head coach, Jay Drake. And he talks to me about what's made them so special this year. When you started the season, was 20-0 anywhere in the back of your mind?
I wish I could say yes, but like probably any coach, we knew last year we had a good nucleus coming back. We were 17-6 and got beat by Del Rapids in the Sodak 16. Going into the year, we with the crew we had coming back, we thought we had some good pieces. Charlie Ward, who was a backup guard for us, came off the bench last year. We kind of had him as our starting point guard this year, and he was our quarterback in football and blew out his knee the last football game of the season. So with that, and then we had some illness early on with Dylan Gestring. So we got off to kind of a slow start from just the standpoint of players' injuries, what we thought a rotation would be. Throw a whole pandemic in there with that. And I don't think you ever think 20-0, but our guys have competed and battled, and here we are.
I want to talk specifically about defense because I've watched you guys on tape a lot, and it looks like you guys, you build your team on defense, and the press has been a big part of that defense.
Right, and that's kind of been our program's philosophy, especially the last 5-6 years. That the conference we play in, obviously, in this area of the state and the region. There's some really good basketball teams out there, and we're trying to compete with the Dakota Valley, Sioux Falls Christians, Tees, Del Rapids of the worlds, and those teams can put up 70, 80 points. And with our group and our teams, we feel we can score the basketball a little bit, but I don't know if we have the offensive explosiveness that some of those other teams have, and we kind of had to rely on our defense at times, grind things out. We figure that's the one thing that will travel no matter what, no matter where we go every night, and try to keep us in games. And, like anything, you're just kind of putting yourself or trying to put yourself in a position where you have a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter. And we've been in those positions this year. And the big thing is our guys have made plays in key moments.
Let's talk about your team and what you're going to have to do a little bit better. Even though you've been 20-0, what are you going to have to focus on to really have a successful postseason here?
Yeah, I think our big thing for us is you try to approach games the exact same way you have the past 20 throughout the regular season. Like with anything, though, is you get into postseason action and it's a one-and-done type deal. Just the complexion of a game. Obviously, going 20-0, you feel like you probably got a little target on your back going into the postseason. But our guys have handled it well. We'll approach things the same way. You got to defend the heck out of teams, rebound the basketball, and you got to take care of the basketball too. I think when you get into postseason games, a lot of times it's the teams that, and I'm thinking about even our teams in recent years. When we've ended our season, it's usually us looking back and saying, well, hey, we were in that basketball game, but we get crushed on the boards, or, hey, we just had too many turnovers. You can't guarantee how you're going to shoot that night, but if you defend, rebound, and just take care of the ball and value your possessions, you hope to have a chance in the fourth. And then, like anything, you got to make some plays and get some stops down the stretch.
They've got quite a team, 20-0 playing in that conference. And like I said before, they haven't made a state tournament since 1989. By the way, their 20th win this year, they went 20-0. They set the school record for consecutive wins. They haven't had an undefeated regular season since 1977 when they went 17-0. And that was back when they had the big Class A and they got knocked off by Aberdeen Central first round of the state tournament that year.
And I didn't look at their region before we did this, but are they going to get to the state tournament?
Well, they've got Dakota Valley and T in their region, so you got 3 stacked teams at the top of that region. Only 2 make it to the Sodak 16. I think they'll make it with the new Sodak 16 format, but if it was like it was before, and you have to beat Dakota Valley just to get to the state tournament, I mean, can you imagine?
32 years since Vermillion's been in the state tournament.
It's been a while. And they've had good teams with A.J. Plitzwhite in the past, and just in the recent past, haven't been able to punch their ticket. So, although they're stacked this year, 20-0, it's going to take an effort for them to keep that going throughout the playoffs.
All right, girls' playoffs are going on right now in Class B and Class A. A couple of regions that you're kind of keeping an eye on. Who you're looking at in girls 2B?
Well, let's look at some big games coming up here in 2B. Harriet-Selby area is a really good team, and I'm the only one that voted for them in the last top 5. I think they're a team to watch. If they make it to the state tournament, they could cause some noise. They're the team that has the 2 6-footers, the 6'4" and the 6'1" on the inside with Rachel Fiedler, their all-state player, in the backcourt. I think that's a dynamite trio. But, they've got Lower Brule, who just knocked off Ipswich, and that was an upset as far as I'm concerned. So they've got them coming up here to punch their ticket to the Sodak 16. And then you've got Highmore Herald and Falkton, 2 other really good teams in that region. So I'm really stoked about 2B.
Region 4B's got Hanson in there.
They have Hanson, and I thought they were going to have to play Howard coming up on Thursday night. Well, they get to play Del Rapids St. Mary, who knocked off Howard, and Howard just got done beating a top 5 team coming into last week. So that's going to be a tough task for Hanson. And then Ethan and Coleman Egan. Coleman Egan is coming down the stretch not like they wanted to. They've lost 4 in a row, but this is a team that showed their potential early in the year. It's going to be a tough out for Ethan.
And those region finals coming up on Thursday.
Yep.
2 region teams out of the region go to the 16.
You got it. So win, and you're into the Sodak 16.
All right. And same thing in girls Class A. 2A.
Let's talk about A, yeah.
Region 2A, Hamlin's in there.
Hamlin gets to play Sioux Valley, and then Florence Henry has been so quiet in Class A this year, but they only have a couple losses on the year, and they take on Flandreau, a team with Claire Shepard, who's got some D1 opportunities in front of her. She still has another year to play. But Flandreau's a really good team, and Florence Henry has really been under the radar. They play each other on Thursday. That's going to be an outstanding game.
Girls 5A.
Let's talk about 5A, where you've got McCook Central Montrose taking on Wagner, and then Parkston taking MVP. Talk about star power in girls 5A. You've got MCM with several really good players. Wagner has had great performances from Shalane Nagel, and they've got a Copel again this year, so they're going to be hard to beat. And then Parkston with Emma Yost, who's been outstanding for Parkston, and they've only lost a couple games, and MVP with Emily Fox, the 9th grader, who's just lighting it up. Parkston MVP just played the last regular season where Parkston won by 12. I think it's going to be a lot closer this time around.
So the Sweet 16s in girls B and A will be set by the end of the week.
Yes, we will. And then we're on to win and you're into the state tournament.
All right. Big games coming up in Double A. These are still regular season games on Thursday. Girls and boys matchup, O'Gorman and Washington. Start with the girls.
Yeah, and I think the girls, O'Gorman is playing some of their best ball at the end of the year. This is going to be the toughest test for Washington. Washington, remember, coming down the stretch, had like top 5 teams in their last 6 games of the year. Well, here's another one where O'Gorman is fresh off of a couple of impressive victories. Washington started this streak when they played O'Gorman back the first time this year and have been outstanding ever since. So I can't wait to see what the rematch has in store.
Washington by 12, I think, the first time around, but that's been a while.
It's been a while.
Since they played each other.
I think it'll be a single-digit game.
All right, the boys matchup there. Washington is 14-1. O'Gorman is 12-6. O'Gorman is hot though,
They just played last week.
and they beat Washington by 3 last week. Yeah.
They just played last week, and exactly, O'Gorman was tough to handle down low. Eddie Myler was outstanding in the post. He had his way against Cale Miedema early on. They switched him. They had Joe Utek guard him for a while. They switched to Taj Two Bulls, and they couldn't find the right matchup for him. Eddie Myler was going crazy that game. But I do think Washington, the way they worked their way back into that game, they can play with anybody, and they're really looking for some revenge. It's kind of, I don't know, you always say it's good to get that first loss of the year, when you're an undefeated team. What do you think about that, Tom?
Why is that?
I don't know.
I don't know why that is.
But it kind of brought them back to, okay, hey, we got some work to do. We're not a finished product yet. And I'll tell you what, I think they're going to come out on all cylinders against O'Gorman coming up on Thursday.
52%er.
You think so? I think Washington's probably favored by a few points. Yeah, 52%. I'll go with that.
60? Were you going to go 60?
No, I was going to go in the upper 50s.
All right.
But
All right, Saturday, girls game. Aberdeen Central
Yeah.
at Washington.
and this is another one where Aberdeen Central had lost a couple now, lost to Harrisburg, lost to Brookings last week, but now they have Brooklyn Kusler back, their leading scorer, the very senior-heavy group. We'll see how they do. So Washington with some really tough hurdles coming down the stretch where they have to take on O'Gorman and then Aberdeen. So that top 5 competition does not let up.
All right, great time of year.
Great time of year. Let's talk hoops again next week. And cut.